I lost an election. No, I'm not talking about the non-serious, unconsequential and already decided elections of mayor, president or parliament. I'm talking about the real, serious, consequential election. Yes, I'm talking about the university society's election. Okay, sorry for being so dramatic. The reason why I'm making this video, actually I have two reasons. The number one reason is I feel the sting of the defeat. Even though it's just a university society's election and I know in the grand scheme of things it doesn't matter, but still losing is losing and I can feel the sting of my defeat. The second reason why I'm making this video, it's because the things which I experienced in the last 2 weeks have taught me much more than studying years of philosophy, politics, and history. As Aristotle said, that human by nature is a political animal, and I found this very true. It started innocently. We got promoted to the final year, and it's a tradition that a president is elected from the final year. So I thought that I have read so many books on psychology, philosophy, politics, and history. Why not put the knowledge which I have in the real world? I always wanted to test the knowledge which I have in the real world. After all, what good is studying Machiavelli if you never get to use the real politic? So I submitted my presidential bid, and another class fellow, whom we call X for privacy concern, which happens to be a female, which in my opinion made all the difference. So after our name were finalized that only we two are going to run an election, they gave us 2 weeks to campaign. And to be honest, I took it easy in the beginning. I was very overconfident. I thought that, I have read so many books like The Prince by Machiavelli or 48 Laws of Power and many more. In my eyes, my opponent was an easy opponent because, to be honest, and I know that for a fact, that she has little to no knowledge about the politics. Meanwhile, she went all in from the day one. At first, I laughed. I thought to myself that she doesn't know how the politics works. I thought that she was just throwing stones in the dark. In my mind, she was an easy opponent. But within a week, I saw from my very own eyes the tide shifting. People were started to take her seriously. And my friends were telling me that, brother, it's time to wake up. She's gaining the momentum. That's when my inner Donald Trump kicked in. She was campaigning like Hillary Clinton. So I thought to myself that, the path which I am going to choose to campaign is the path which Donald Trump takes, which is the fun part. So what Donald Trump does in his election campaigns, he starts attacking people, and that's what I did, but not in a mean way, in a playful way. I took jabs, I roasted her in a playful manner, not fully brutal like Donald Trump. I thought that it is a fun way and it's going to work because people gravitate towards the person who puts on a good show. At least that's what I thought. As Groucho Marx said, politics is the art of looking for troubles, finding it everywhere, diagnosing it incorrectly, and applying the wrong remedies. I apparently just applied the wrong remedy. What I didn't realize was that it wasn't just politics, it was gender politics. Now, the thing is that our department is evenly divided among males and females. And what she did, I have to admire, that she started quoting, "Oh, I know I'm a girl and I'm probably not going to win, but still I'm going to try my best." That line, that emotional hook turned everything around. Suddenly, I became a villain. Suddenly, I became a person who was just bullying her female opponent. And she became a symbol. The male students admire her confidence that, oh, he's taking on the big guy, and the female students were already sold and they united behind her. As Machiavelli said, men in general judge more from appearances than from realities. What I thought was strength, confident roasting, theatrical debate began to look different when people saw the whole picture. Then came the moment. Just one day before the election, I entered in which is considered one of the biggest classroom of our department to do my final round of campaigning. While I was doing campaigning, she entered the room and the atmosphere instantly changed. I saw an opportunity. I turned that campaign into a debate. She jumped in too, and suddenly it was me versus her in front of the whole packed class. I was in my element. After years of watching presidential debate between Trump and Hillary, between Trump and Biden, between Trump and Kamala, I thought finally I have the moment. I have the moment in which I can shine. My inner Trump kicked in. I started taking jabs at her. I started roasting her. I was improvising. The crowd was loving it. She, on the other hand, grew visibly emotional. At one point, it felt like that she was going to cry, like literally. And in my mind, I thought, yes, that's it. That's my final knockout punch. To me, crying in front of the audience is the sign of weakness. And I thought that people want strong leaders rather than weak. So when the debate ended, I felt unstoppable. My friends were cheering, the juniors were hyped, it felt like a victory rally. In my mind, I was already dancing to YMCA like Trump does in his rallies. Then I came back home thinking that I knocked her out and the victory will be finally mine the next day. That night, I happens to meet one of my friends who's a little older but he's also into politics, and I told him what went through today. He listened carefully, and after listening me, he said, "Yeah, it was a great show, but be careful. Sometimes people vote out of sympathy. Some people don't vote for someone who's strong, but they vote for someone who they feel for." And those words struck to me. A whole night I couldn't sleep thinking about those words, but I couldn't do anything. But the seeds of doubt were planted in my mind. So the next day, election day arrived. We were called to give our final speeches before the voting begins. She went first to deliver her speech before the voting because ladies first. She goes to the podium and talked about unity and all the conventional things the politicians usually speak. Then came my turn. I started roasted her, taking jabs at her, subtle jabs. The whole crowd was loving it, and I could see it that the larger chunk of the audience was with me, or at least I thought they were with me because they were enjoying the show which I was putting on. And I also want to add a little thing, just in case you might be wondering. My whole campaigning wasn't just about roasting her. Yes, it was a huge part of it, but I also talked about the unity. I also talked about the how I could make the society great. I also talked about the reforms. But the roasting was like the sun, and the other things were like planet revolving around it. Then the voting began. Students started to cast their votes. Initially, I was leading with like 15 to 20 votes. My class fellows and the juniors who were on my side, they already started congratulating me. I thought that yes, I finally did it. Not just I won, but I won in a landslide. Then the teachers took the votes to another room. Now here's something interesting happens. Alright, and I give you my two interpretations that what happens, okay? The first interpretation is that when they came back from the room, they said that the competition was very tough and it was neck to neck, and the winner won by only one vote. And I thought to myself that how could be that possible, right? I was having a 20-25 votes margin. How could I win by one vote, right? And then they announced the winner, and it wasn't me. It was actually her. And I was in an absolute denial. And guess what? What was my reaction? I give you 3 seconds. This clip of Donald Trump was my reaction when he lost election in 2020.
And we were getting ready for a big celebration. We were winning everything, and all of a sudden it was just called off.
That was my reaction because in my mind I thought that this is definitely rigging, because the one teacher who was in the counting committee was on her side, like literally, he preferred her because of favoritism. The favoritism happens in universities, not a big thing. I thought that what, the elections are rigged and the votes has been stolen, and it was there, and I was in a huge denial. I'm still in denial, by the way, the very day when I am making this video. And this is the first interpretation. I'm not saying that it happened, it is the interpretation of all the events that went through. Now the second interpretation is, and it is also which I like to proceed with, just not to be in bad faith, and that is the silent voter. Now this is something that happened in 2016. Now you must be wondering that it's just a university society election, why I'm taking it so seriously. But what can I do, right? I am a human and I don't like losing. So I know, please, if you're thinking that I'm yapping a lot, please, I'm sorry. But moving on, the second interpretation which I think that happens, and I would like to have in a good faith, is that there were a majority of the voter who did not want to disclose that they were supporting that person or they were voting for that person. Similarly, like that happened in 2016 when it was Trump versus Hillary, because from the outside it felt like that Hillary was going to win in landslide because the voters of the Hillary were very vocal about their support. On the other hand, the supporters or the voters of the Donald Trump weren't very vocal about supporting him, but they did voted for him and thus making him win the election. That I think must have happened. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe the first interpretation is right, maybe not. I don't know, but it doesn't matter in the end, as I said in the beginning. But one thing that remains same in the end, regardless of whatever the interpretation is, that I was shattered. Even though I'm a kind of a person, maybe not very much knowledgeable, but who tends to have maybe some knowledge and who's very self-aware. But I think what happened at that moment was something surreal, and I think that I would never experience like that. That I was totally in denial. Like literally, I could not accept. I thought that they were joking. They were going to announce, "Oh no, I am the winner." They're just teasing me, poking me. But through the very end, it was decided that she was winner and I was in a denial. Now, I'm not saying that it's a good thing, but now I can understand that when a candidate loses, he refuses to concede or accept the election results because their ego is so much involved in it. Now, this is just a couple of more than 100 students. We are talking about the politicians who face the millions. They are so much consumed in it. Now I can understand, not just I'm supporting him, just I can understand that why he did that or how he felt when he decided that he's not going to concede election. And then later on, what happened on January 6th, it's another story for another day. But I can understand that why he didn't accept the results. I can understand why Kamala Harris didn't conceded the election and gave the concession speech on the election night. All I'm saying that, as Lord Acton once said, power tends to corrupt and absolute power corrupts absolutely. But I would like to add, the illusion of power corrupts too. So the fallout. After the result was declared, it was materialized that she is now the president. I didn't go on my Twitter and started tweeting, "Stop the count, stop the steal." I didn't do that, even though my whole campaigning was like Donald Trump. So maybe that would have been a sensible thing to do, but I didn't do that. Apparently, I took the defeat gracefully. I smiled, I congratulated her, and then I went home. And while on my way back home, I repeated all the events that took place in the span of 2 weeks, the campaigns, the debates, everything that happened in the span of 2 weeks, that where I made mistake, where I took things absolutely wrong. But in the end, it doesn't matter. Now I was lost. And in that moment, I understood what Machiavelli meant when he wrote that in his book, The Prince. Men are so simple and so much inclined to obey immediate needs that a deceiver will never lack victims for his deceptions. I had been deceived, not by her or not by the system, but my very own ego. I thought that I was very self aware. I thought that I know very much about the politics because I have so much knowledge. But I understood that I am a human, and as any other human, I also have some blind spots in my personality or the way I think. Daniel J. Boorstin said, "The greatest enemy of knowledge is not ignorance, it's the illusion of knowledge." You can't simulate humiliation in your mind. You have to experience it in real world. And when you do, it reveals the part of you that you never knew that existed. And that's when I realized that there's no substitute for the first-hand experience. Now let's talk about some lessons which I learned from this whole experience. The lesson number one, and which is nowadays again a popular song, "The winner takes it all." Before the election, everyone had sides. I had my side and she had her side. But when the results were announced, there was only one side that people took, and it was her side. Everyone went on to congratulate her, even my friends. I don't know why. It felt a little stingy to me that everyone was eager and jumping to congratulate her, and immediately I saw myself at the corner of the room alone, and everyone was congratulating her and circled around her. At that moment, I truly felt what it really means by winner takes it all and the loser stands small. Is it stand small or something else? I can't recall it right now. Lesson 2. The ego is a dangerous thing. When the result was announced, I didn't accept the result. I started to blame everyone. I started to first blame the teacher that oh they might have rigged the election. Then I started to blame the people who voted for her. I started to blame the whole system. But deep down it wasn't about them. It was about my ego refusing to accept the reality. It was my ego refusing to accept that I have lost. And certainly, I understood modern politics. When Trump said that he won't concede the election, that he won the election and the election was stolen from him, at that moment I thought that man, he's so delusional. He's obviously lost the election, accept the results gracefully. But now, experiencing it myself, now I can understand that why he didn't do that. Even losing in front of just 100 or more students sucks. Imagine losing in front of millions of people. Your ego just can't let you accept the reality because you are so much consumed into it. The third and the final thing which I learned from this whole experience is that democracy is not a perfect solution. It has many great flaws in it. Now, I know you must be thinking, oh, because I lost, now I am questioning the whole system. No, it's not about that. What I'm trying to say here is that one of the biggest flaws that democracy has is the politicians and the leaders' constant need for the validation of the people. In order to win the election, in order to stay in power, he would never take those necessary decisions. He would never consider the long term benefit of the society or the country. He would only think short term. He would only think about the time in which he could retain power as long as much as possible. In the end, I realized something simple but profound. We all are humans. We all are flawed. We all desperately clinging to things how we want to be. I lost an election, but I've gained an experience which I could never in my life could gain even by reading thousands of books. And most importantly, I got a story to tell you. If you ever lost something, maybe a job, a relationship, or a contest, you know what I mean. I hope that you've enjoyed this story which I shared to you and maybe learned a thing or two from the experience which I got. And I will see you in another one. Peace.